welcome to the show. You got them eyeballs of yours glued to the old boob tube, I see. Not that watching movie Macabre necessarily makes you a boob. Not necessarily. Well, let's talk movie Macabre, okay? This time around, we're serving up a little treat called Dr. Heckyl and Mr. Hype. Heckyl and Hype. Now, if that title sounds familiar to you, well, I kind of had the same feeling when I heard it my own darn self. I think it's like a I think it's like an adaptation of a classic story with a similar title. The heck of it is, I am stuck trying to remember what that classic story is. You know how sometimes you get these metal blocks? Well, that's what I'm having right now, a metal block. And it's right on the tip of my tongue. Well, no matter. I'm sure it'll come to me sooner or later. Dr. Heckyl and Mr. Hype, another Movie Mac winner, coming your way right after the commercial. You've heard of the Free Clinic. This movie's taking place at the Weird Clinic. Too macabre, too macabre. Oh, one thing about being as ugly as Dr. Heckyl, you never have trouble getting a seat on the bus. Oh, and there's another thing in his favor. When he was a kid, his parents never had to spend money on a mask at Halloween. Oh, Dr. Henry Heckyl, podiatrist. When he attended medical school, he studied day and night to get to the foot of his class. A little podiatry humor there. Boy, I'll say his luck's still holding. When he looked in that mirror, it didn't break. Oops. Spoke too soon. Oh, poor Dr. Heckyl. He finally meets the girl of his dreams, and it turns out that he's the man of her nightmares. But I got a feeling that all that's about to change. I'm starting to remember how the original version of this yarn goes. And if I am right, we're about due for a trans-what-you-call formation. I wouldn't be surprised if that footman didn't turn into a face man. You just mark my words. I said mark my words, not bark my words. Gee, I don't know how to tell that guy, but he still didn't come out looking like no Tom Selleck. Oh, and the way he comes on, it's like he took suave lessons from my old pal Breather. You remember Breather, of course, Mr. Tall, Dark, and Loathsome. I think I liked Heckyl better the way he was before. Okay, so he was a shade on the homely side, but he was still a podiatrist with soul. And that ain't no easy feat. Hey, do I really have to read this corn? And now it's time to Ask the Doctor. Today, the author of Don't Eat the Zucchini, Sit on It, Dr. Weldon Berger. And welcome, Dr. Berger.
Thank you, Elvira. It's nice to be here.
So the premise of your book is more or less that you feel you can cure common ailments by simply raiding the refrigerator. Is that right?
Yeah, that's just about the size of it, yeah.
Well, that's great. It's kind of like you are what you eat.
Well, it's more like this. You've heard of the old home remedy of putting a steak on a black eye, right?
Right. I do it every time I run into a doorknob.
Well, that isn't as preposterous as it may sound, because many of the juices found in the steak actually do reduce swelling and discoloration.
Makes sense.
Now, what would you do for a headache? I wouldn't use steak, but I would use chicken. And what you simply do is to tie the chicken onto the head.
Pretty.
Like this, creating a comforting cocoon of relief throughout the entire skull area. Now, be sure to save those giblets, because they're very good for canker sores.
Oh, I will. I will, don't worry.
Now, you know, throughout our busy day, our feet often take the brunt of our stress.
Well, I know mine do.
Yeah. And I'll bet you have some corns because of it, too, don't you?
No.
Come on.
No,
Put your little size 9 in here. Come on, let me see.
I don't.
Yeah, you sure do. Well, you'd look pretty silly with a chicken tied to your foot. So I'm not going to use chicken, but I'm going to use corn.
Oh.
Now, what you simply do is to pour the corn onto the corns, and then work the corn right into the corns.
Feels great.
Now, I'm using the creamy style. I find its emollients help soften that dead tissue. Now, how does that feel?
Oh, great. Really
Okay.
good.
But I'll bet some of your viewers are probably saying, well, those home remedies are fine for most everyday ailments, but I think I've got jock itch.
Why not take Oliver, Oliver? Or would that be reading between the lions?
I don't imagine you've ever had jock itch, though, right?
Well, Dr. Berger, I've had just about everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, headaches and corns and what have you. So what you're basically saying, then, is that for jock itch, you use a chicken, right?
No. I wouldn't use chicken. I'd use pork and beans.
Oh.
You see, the pork and the beans work together with an astringent property that's vital to the treatment of all kinds of jock itch and heat rash.
That's about all the time we have today for...
Don't you want me to tell you about the early home pregnancy test with a brisket?
No, why don't you just save that? Hey, forget the part about taking her to a Chinese restaurant. An hour later, you'd just be ugly again. And when he was telling Coral Corrine the stuff about his mother being a glue sniffer at the time of his birth, he left out a couple of little details, like the fact that when he was born, he was so ugly that the doctor actually slapped his mother. I am talking ugly. Now he's going back for more of that silly sauce. What he ought to do this time is get some 8x10 glasses made. Might be his last chance. Well, back to the movie, Dr. Heckyl and Mr. Hype, after the advertisers shoehorn in these commercials. Oh, lucky her. I usually get stuck with the ones who make love like a monster. And poor Dr. Heckyl. Now they're accusing him of murder.
Murder? Murder.
Yes, murder. Of course, we know they have the wrong man. Heckyl may be a podiatrist, but he ain't no heel. It's the other guy, Hype, Dr. Heckyl's arch enemy. Oh, I just love doing foot humor. I love it. Hey, it looks like everybody's getting a kick out of this one. Strange movie, ain't it? They could have called it the Keystone Cops Meet the Ayatollah. And thanks to the lengthy dissertation, we know that Dr. Hinkle's formula can be all things to all people. It turns fat people thin, short people tall, ugly people handsome. And now it just turned his other colleague, Doctor Who, into Dr. What? Very strange, very strange. Okie doke, the conclusion. Make that the exciting conclusion. The exciting conclusion to this week's Movie Macker, Dr. Heckyl and Mr. Hype, is it coming up right after this. Well, that's it for our movie, Dr. Heckyl and Mr. Hype. Someone here on the crew finally reminded me what the classic piece was from whence this movie came. I mean, how could I ever forget? Of course, it was Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde. You know, starring Bernie Casey. Why, we've even had it here on Movie Macabre, and it's such a classic piece. Classic piece of what I'd better not say. But what I'd better say is adios, au reservoir, our Wiener Schnitzel. Time to call it a night and get on out of Dodge. So, by your leave, I'm out of here. See you next week, darling. Don't forget the bonbons and unpleasant dreams.